welcome. This is Women's Voices, Women's Challenges, Resources to Succeed in 911. I'm Danielle Morphy. I'm the marketing manager for PowerPhone, and I'll be moderating this event. But before we begin this presentation, this session is being recorded and it will be made available after the presentation. So whether you can sit through the entire event, which we hope so, or you have to pop off, or someone hasn't made it, but they've registered, they will get the link to this recording. To ensure the best possible audio experience, your mics have been muted. So if you have any questions in particular, use that questions tab on your webinar control panel. That tab is on the lower right control panel next to your chat tab. You can ask questions anytime. And we will do our best to answer them at the conclusion of the presentation and probably be prompting you guys to go ahead and throw some of your input in the chat area. Okay, so it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our hosts. We have Sara Weston. I'm going to just advance. Bear with me for a minute. We have Sara Weston. There she is. ENP and PMP. She's the founder and executive director of 911 Wonder Woman Incorporated. This is a nonprofit corporation I have a feeling a lot of you are familiar with a mission to empower and provide tools for women in public safety. Sara, hello. Feel free to add a little more to my introduction to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is one of the things that I just love to do is have these conversations. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you for asking me. And if you have not heard of 911 Wonder Woman, we will, at the end of the presentation, there'll be a slide with all of our information. So we can talk about it then as well. But thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. And Sara is also CEO of Sara Weston Consulting. She's been a consultant for NG 911 systems for 20 years. She's worked across America, bringing new technologies into 911 centers. And now I will add Erin Winslow. She's our own implementation manager here at PowerPhone. She has 20 years experience as a telecommunicator. This includes dispatching, training, crisis intervention, supervision, and administration. And she's on our PowerPhone team. She joined us in 2020 and she implements and onboards agencies with total response. Hello, Erin. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Danielle. It's great to be here. I'm so excited to be a part of this. I know Sara, and I actually was very early on a member of 911 Wonder Woman. I think when there were only around 200 members, I was super early in that door. So, and they really helped me through my transition to vendor life. So it's fantastic and an honor to be a part of this.
Amazing. All right, I'm going to push forward a little bit and just quickly talk about PowerPhone and 911 Wonder Woman. Our mission here at PowerPhone is to breathing new life into public safety, and we transform chaos into clarity and information into action, from the phone line to the front line, every call, every time. And when we talk about 911 Wonder Woman's mission, if you don't mind me, Sara, I'm going to say it. I'm excited. Their mission is to strengthen and support the women of 911 and equip them with the tools to foster professional and personal growth. And as we mentioned, 911 Wonder Women is a nonprofit and a community providing mental health, wellness resources, training, career development, outreach, and research to our 911 responders, who are the public safety lifeline to those who call in need of help. So very excited to collaborate with you, Sara, and work with your amazing organization. You know, I love the message of empowering people. And, you know, full disclosure here, everyone is welcome here. We're talking about women in 911, but that does not mean it's exclusive to others outside of that. So we hope that everyone from all walks of life have joined us here just to get another perspective. And to hear a little bit about, what the obstacles and challenges are that women in 911 in particular are facing today. So I'm going to advance and I'm going to start with a little poll. So we want to hear from you before we start this conversation. In your experience today, let me get that poll up. what is the greatest challenge women in 911 face? So this should be, I don't know, can you guys, because everyone, my little coworkers here, can everyone see the poll? Has it been published? Are you guys able to participate? Everyone see it in the chat box? Pull up that chat box. You can submit your vote.
Oh, I see it.
Okay, so it's on the right-hand side. It's the poll section is to the left of questions. And what we're seeing here is, can you tell us what the greatest challenge is? Is it a lack of career advancement opportunities, work-life balance problems, benefits and equal pay, mental health concerns, all of the above, or something else? And if it's something else, go ahead and throw it in our chat. We'd love to see what other issues you're facing. Yeah, we're getting our results.
So yeah, you can see it as people fill it out.
Yes. Right now, all of the above is our top choice. Not surprising. And I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. If there's anything else that people are seeing as a great challenge or obstacle that you face, feel free to let us know. Okay, well, while you guys are submitting your vote, let's talk a little bit about these challenges. So we're going to talk about obviously 4 common obstacles in 911 for women: the lack of career advancement opportunities, work-life balance challenges, mental health concerns, burnout, which is a huge issue within the 911 industry overall, benefits and equal pay. And Sara, maybe you can help tell us a little bit why this is important to talk about. I mean, I put it there in glaring red. 70% of dispatchers are women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So through the years that I've been working on 911 Wonder Women, I've gotten a lot of questions of why? Why is this needed? We're not a minority. And it's not about being a minority. It's about the suffering and silence that a lot of women are doing. The amount of stuff we take on, we're expected to take on, and just swallow it and just keep going and keep going. And this is just the way the world is, right? That's one of the things that I discovered so early on when we started the Facebook group. And Erin, I'm sure you saw this too.
Absolutely.
Within a week of launching the group, we had 1,000 women in it. 1 week. And I was like, wow. And it was so amazing to me at first, just what a word of, you're not alone. You're not alone. We are all struggling with all of those things on that slide. And let's talk about it. Let's have the conversation so that, 1, as a nonprofit, we can provide you with the tools that you need. But 2, it takes all of us. It is not just a women's issue. If we're not functioning at the capacity that we could be, that's a problem for everyone. That's a problem for the workforce. It's a problem for 911, for public safety, for our families. So we all need to ask for help, let people know that we're struggling, and then we can get resources. We don't have to swallow that up. So that's one thing. Number 2, although there's 70% women in 911 and working as telecommunicators, look at the leadership. There's not 70% leadership women in 911. A lot of dispatch centers are run by police or fire. And we all know leadership in those industries are often men as well. So that's one of the things that by working on what's on this slide, by working on the issues we're struggling with, we can then work on career advancement, leadership development. But we have to start with ourselves.
Right. And that I want to add something that some people added, and I think it's going to fall under one of the sections that we're going to talk about, is mom guilt. I'm a mom as well. And I think that I mean, it can fall under everything within its work-life balance, your mental health. And, how are you a working, like a successful professional, but also like have your whole like home life together? And is that expected of you? So there's going to be some conversation points there. We're going to talk a little bit about the career advancement opportunities. As Sara said, leadership positions are disproportionately male. And we're going to talk a little bit about some common hurdles, the cost and time associated with obtaining certifications, such as your ENP certification. Sara, do you want to talk a little bit about that? You are an ENP, so.
Yes. So my journey is a little bit different. I was never a dispatcher. I started in public safety as a technology consultant. So I started right out of school, 21-year-old, like 5 foot small child almost, walking into a consulting firm full of men and not getting any respect just because of the way that I looked. And I think that happens in 911 centers too, especially if you're new, the whole mentality of eating your young and, I'm not going to call you by your name until you've passed training, all of that stuff. It was a very, parallel universe. So my whole motivation for getting my ENP was so that people would respect me because I had those letters after my name. Of course, I wanted to learn more, and not working in a 911 center, I wanted to learn more about what you all do because that would help me to help you and to do my job. But really, I was like, when I have these letters after my name and I walk into a 911 center and say, hi, I'm your technology consultant, people wouldn't laugh at me. And it literally happened. I've gotten, so many of those comments. So I was fortunate that my company paid for the training, and we'll come back to that aspect. But what I had to do is I had to go out. There were no study groups at the time. This was 2007, I think, 2008. I had to go find people who knew what they were talking about for each of the things on the EMP exam. So there's operations, there's radio, there's technology, there's policy. And I really had to go out and discover for myself, like, who could teach me these things. So one, that opened the door for me to know people. I got to meet experts in the field. That helped me not only with the EMP, but also I now knew someone I could ask questions to, which that's half the battle. And I could go and take the test and get the certification and be proud of it and like have that on my business card, have it in my back pocket and carry it with me. It's been 13 years now. And the confidence that gave me just going out and doing all of those things was worth way more than the price of the certification. When it comes to the expense, I know, and Erin, I'll pass the baton to you on this one after I say this. It is expensive, right? I think it's $500 to take the test. And if you don't pass, you have to pay again to retake it. A lot of people don't pass the first time as well. I just want to put that out there. So there are scholarships out the yin yang. You just have to know where to look. 911 Wonder Woman does a scholarship every single year. It's open. Applications are open from October to January. So write that down. NINA does scholarships. Your state chapters of NINA does scholarships. If you follow, I think Tracy Eldridge on social media, she does scholarships because she has a boot camp that she does. There are ways. And I'm telling you right now, there aren't a lot of people applying for these scholarships. You would be surprised. And it's not like you have to write a book report. You just have to fill out a form and hit submit. So I just really want to encourage you to find a way if your agency refuses to pay, because it is an investment in yourself. And once you have that, no one can take that away from you. No one can take that knowledge that you learn. That's yours. So that's my plug. And Erin, I'll let you talk about your experience.
Yeah. So for me, it is difficult to get those dollars to pay for EMP. I did have an agency that was willing to pay for it eventually, and I was just starting the study process and had some health things, so I had to pull back from it and actually stop dispatching, which is how I ended up here. But yeah, trying to get that money together. I mean, when you have an agency, some agencies literally their training budget for a year is $1,000, $2,000. When that's all that you have, and a lot of directors are out there they try, but they would love to pay for everybody to go to and get these certifications, but it just doesn't exist. Then you also have those in leadership positions who don't understand or have a concept of the importance of EMP. They don't understand the respect that comes along with it. They don't understand the trickle-down effect that having somebody on your staff like that with that kind of certification and those letters, they just see it as letters. They don't understand how helpful it can be and the amount of respect that comes along with it. So it's definitely something that it's a challenge for sure, trying to get that kind of training, that kind of certification. But there are a lot of other opportunities out there, even if ENP takes some time to get, you've got to work in the field for a certain number of years. There's certain qualifications, requirements. But yes, there are definitely a lot of scholarships out there. But, you also have where it's, it's just a challenge. I saw somebody in the chat commented that it's difficult to commit to EMP when you're killing yourself on overtime. So that goes back to the, work-life balance, and how do you prioritize, how do you rationalize saying, what, let me not spend time with my kid because I need to study. And it's difficult to balance that out. For a while when I was going to school at the same time as my daughter, I'd try to do work at the same time she was working on her homework. I would try to do that with her when she was younger. Now she's high school and that's just out the window. But it really is difficult.
Bless you.
I know. I need it every day. No, it really is. It's very difficult though to balance that. So that was a great point. And coming back to all of the challenges, EMP is a great thing and it's great to talk about. It's important, but the people who commented were absolutely correct. It is yet another challenge that we face in this line of work in the industry.
Yeah, someone actually said that no one in her agency even knew what it was when she was considering it a few years back. And I mean, that's interesting, and it's a step forward. I think that also ties into the next point about just the constant change in leadership. If it's inconsistent, staff turnaround, that it is a high turnaround in this field. So I think that is something, if you don't have leadership suggesting that or encouraging it, even if they can't pay for it, it's hard to navigate. And I think it was you, Erin, that may have mentioned this, that there are a lot of, in some agencies, leadership roles are treated as rotated positions within the agency.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I know I've seen in my experience, and the bulk of where I've been, it wasn't as much the case as far as our main person in charge of us, but a lot of agencies rotate leadership positions around, and it's because they want to create well-balanced leaders. Well, when you're talking about police and fire, in those departments, they want them to have experience in all the different areas throughout the department, and that's why they do that, which theoretically speaking, that's good, but when 911 dispatching is such a specialized field, it's really a detriment to the 911 system in a lot of cases, because then somebody new comes in, and if they're switching leadership every 2 years, over the center, how do you get through that? And, by the time they're really getting their feet under them and learning about things, they're moving on. And then somebody else comes in and you've got to go all the way back to square one. So they don't necessarily know about things like EMP. They don't have those contacts made from going to the, I see somebody says 7th communications lieutenant, over 20 years. I mean, that's just insane. That's a high turnover at leadership. They don't make those connections, the networking connections either, when they're rotating that quickly. To have that networking, that makes a big difference. They learn a lot from each other. I know in the region where I live, all the 911 leaders get together once a month and they have a meeting. And so they do that networking, but that doesn't happen everywhere. So, but I mean, a lot of our leadership, fortunately, is the same. So there are certain cities, yep, I know who that is. I know who that is, even though I've been out of the game for a few years as far as working in the centers. So that networking is super important too. And when they're not doing that, that's really a detriment to the dispatchers and to the citizens, really, because it decreases the level of service that's provided, I think, in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're on mute.
I was muted because I had a very loud cat in the background meowing. A cat. So
at least it wasn't my dogs for a change. That's fantastic.
I showed the cat. I've locked the cat out. There's 2. This is not my kids. So what I was saying is, let's talk a little bit about what we could do about it. I know Sara mentioned the importance of certifications like the emergency number professional certification, and talked a little bit about the discounts and things like that. You guys touched on networking. I know we're talking about cross training. Please go ahead and jump in. I mean, I'd love to hear from your point of view of how we can, take that next step forward.
One of the best things I've done for myself and my career is reach out to people. So I talked about that a little bit for the EMP, but today, like back then, we had social media, but we didn't use it in this way. If you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. Every leader that I know is on LinkedIn, is sharing their thoughts, sharing articles in the know, and not only is that a great place for you to kind of like teach yourself some things and learn, but these people want to help. Leaders in 911 have been where you are. They know what it's like. And just a simple, like reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, like, hey, I saw your post about blah, blah, blah. I thought it was really interesting. Do you have 30 minutes to chat? Not everyone's going to respond, but people will. One of my, I have a mentor, her name's Karima Holmes. She was the director in Washington, D.C. And I followed her. I always say I stalked her as a mentor for a long time. She didn't know she was my mentor. She didn't know I existed, but I kind of followed her career and watched what she was doing. And one day I got the nerve and I just messaged her, and now, she's on my board of directors. So I know sometimes we feel like we can't get to conferences because of the training and the understaffing. There are things you can do with social media now where you can find a mentor, you can find your people. And if you do have the opportunity to go to a class or a conference, going up to the speaker after the session, I do it in every session that I go to, no matter what. Even if I don't have anything to say, I say, hey, I really enjoyed when you said blah, 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 or I give them my business card and I, hey, I want to follow up with you on this point. They are there for that reason. They want to do it. So reaching out to people and networking in any way that you can, that was a game changer for me in my career.
I agree with you 100% on that, Sara. And that helped me too. Even just the networking with 911 Wonder Women, which is really when I started my networking, was that, that was a huge help to me when I had to pivot in my career and I was kind of, oh, poor me, the response that I got was it wasn't, yeah, poor you. It was, you can do something else. Reach out to your vendors, reach out to, just all these suggestions that came from that group of women was amazing. And then again, like you said, LinkedIn, I have people come to me all the time when I'm going out to different agencies. Hey, how did you get to where you are? LinkedIn is another great place to see about, not that I'm a big advocate of jumping from agency to agency to agency. I'm an advocate of increasing, or moving up. Find ways to move up, whether it be a promotion opportunity at a nearby agency, which is what I did, or go seeing, oh, wow, this vendor for this product that I really like is looking for somebody. Let me apply. You would be surprised. I did not give myself the credit that I should have for the skill set that I had. I submitted my resume to PowerPhone just to get my husband to stop asking me every day if I'd done it yet, because I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the confidence in myself at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, if he would just be quiet, let me just do this. And within a half an hour, I heard back. I said, wow, I guess my resume is better than I realized. So a lot of people out there, and I didn't have any letters behind my name, but I didn't have my bachelor's degree, but a lot of people out there are seeing the value in this industry. They see the value of being in the trenches. They see the value of working that shift work, and the lessons that you learn and the experiences that you have from that can take you so far. So I would also agree, just like we've got on here, place higher value on your experience. Apply. You can do so much more than you realize, because the skill set in 911 is different from most other careers out there. And the amount of information that you gain is so much more than you realize. And, we talk about training. Get as much training as possible. Look for free trainings. I see webinars, free webinars all the time on LinkedIn. So again, back to LinkedIn, that's where you're really going to see great, the memes and stuff on Facebook and Instagram and all of that stuff. That's really funny and fun. But when you want the professional contacts, you want those great training opportunities, scholarship opportunities, LinkedIn is where you're going to see those opportunities come up. So don't feel like you have to be at the top of the industry to be on LinkedIn. Just get in there. Send, Sarah, I'm just putting you out there. Send us, requests. Like how I did that. But I mean, because from that, you see who they network with, and you just kind of start, requesting people like that. And as you're sharing ideas, you get recognition from people that you didn't realize you would. And people look you up. Every time I get a new project, I notice my LinkedIn searches increase, especially if it's, at a larger agency. They're checking you out to see what's your experience. What kind of person are you? LinkedIn is an amazing, it's an amazing site with lots of opportunities for training on there too.
Yeah, it's a great.
So community. I want to address. Oh,
yep. Go on.
Sorry. I want to address some of the comments really quick. I'm just looking at them. So let's see. Tiffany said, "Get uncomfortable." I love that. I am the most awkward. I know I don't seem it sometimes, but like in person, if you meet me, I'm very awkward. I get really nervous. I talk really fast. But I push myself to do it. And I think, a lot of us make excuses like, no, I couldn't do that. That's not me. But you can. You definitely can. So I love that. And then also, Catherine, I've always been the person learned so much from just paying attention. How many days go by and you're just like, it's just a blur. And there's little things that happen to you during the day that you can learn from. I always say, get curious. Like, why did I react that way? Why do I find that interesting? Let me follow this wormhole. Those are little like sparks of, hey, like follow that. If you're curious, go down that road. You don't even have to want to leave the 911 center. That's how you can move up at supervisor, director, or become an SME, a subject matter expert of something in your center. These are little sparks of inspiration.
I love that. And subject matter.
And then,
sorry, go on.
One thing, I never know what to write. I think it's scholarship application. Scholarship applications, I know for us, I don't read them because I know too many people and I don't want to be biased. But what we're looking for is share you. Who are you? What do you like about your job? You want to be better, but why? This is where you're stuck. This is what you want to do. When I get the scholarship, I will ABC. I will update my resume. I will share the information with my center. I will bring this back. That's what most people want to see in a scholarship application. It's like, who is this person applying and what are they going to do? Okay, I'm done.
No,
I want to address one other comment, if you don't mind, real quick.
sure.
That I saw, and that was somebody was asking if EMP is along the lines of RPL. Yes, it is. It's just through a different organization, but yeah, they're equivalent pretty much.
It's a different process.
It is
RPL.
Definitely a different process because yes, you're there are a lot of steps involved, but as far as wanting that something extra behind your name, yes, that's going to be very similar. Yes.
Yep. Looks like Kelly had said that it's a year-long service project coupled with classes and 4 3-month smaller service projects. Pretty intense. Yes. Awesome. Good. Gee. Let's move on. I think all of this is tied together. So I think we're going to state the obvious here, guys. I don't even know if we need to go through it. We know what the work-life balance is. You guys said mom guilt. These crazy long shifts, irregular hours, this conflict between work and home. Even if there is research that even if you are the breadwinner or earning a similar income like your partner, women pick up that heavier load when it comes to the household life, the chores, keeping everything together and caregiving on top of working insane shifts. Just the shift designations, everything is sort of subject to change with little to no notice. And, it's sort of considered necessary evil to miss family functions or special events because you don't know what your shift is going to be like. And sometimes it can be a little bit isolating if people who do not have this experience and live your everyday life, they don't understand it. Maybe they think that you just don't want to show up, but your shift is, it's a double one day or it's morning and night. So, I mean, Erin, I know you can talk a little bit about that since you were in the seats, and Sarah, please weigh in.
And I just saw a comment that really it hit. Catherine, mom guilt is hard when you start your career before being a mom because you're already brainwashed into overtime and orders. Yes. Wow. I was a 911 dispatcher for nearly 10 years before I became a mom and became a preemie mom at that. And so I went back to work after 4 weeks. I spent 18 weeks going back and forth visiting my daughter in the neonatal intensive care unit before she was able to come home and working, all but 4 weeks of that time. My coworkers were phenomenal as far as support and helping pick up some overtime so that way I didn't have to do it. But those are all hard things. And I know my daughter, it sometimes makes me sad that my daughter is used to being able to just pick up and go somewhere. You know, we'd be at an event and something would happen that we'd have to go, and I'd say, baby, mommy's got to go, let's go, come on. And you know, she'd go and sit in, you know, a back office off the 911 center, and you know, have to, you know, just kind of entertain herself while we handled what needed to happen. And she got used to it, and she was phenomenal at it. One of my coworkers, our daughters were great friends, you know, because of all of that. But trying to find somebody to help with childcare 24/7, you know, when you've got the shift work, that's difficult. And, you know, even when you're, you know, somebody who has a partner, you know, that it's still hard with all of that because, yeah, I mean, I see people 60 hours a week, right? You know, coming back from maternity leave. That's how that type of stuff goes, because people go, oh, well, they've had time off, and, you know, so let's do this. Well, no, there's really a transition, and they really haven't been off.
Right.
So things like that. I mean, it's huge when you have all of these responsibilities, and we don't, you know, a lot of dispatchers are type A. We don't like to ask for help. We like to do things ourselves, and we don't like to admit that we can't carry the full weight. I am still learning how to ask for help, and I have a phenomenal boss right now who has just made me learn that lesson. And you know, it only took 25 years to learn it, but it is difficult. And, you know, mom guilt is a big thing though. And we're cranky, we're tired, we're hungry, we don't eat right, we're working all the time. Our house is a mess, but we think it shouldn't be. And, you know, my kids' clothes are dirty. I mean, I wash my kids' clothes. Well, they wash them now, but yeah, but I mean, you know, it's like, it's okay. You know, sometimes it's hard to say things aren't perfect and that's okay. And we really struggle with that internally.
Yes, so much. The perfection, the expectation of perfection. Sorry, I'm moving my camera around, guys. I'm at speaking of work-life balance, I'm at the IWCE conference in Orlando right now. And speaking of mom guilt, work-life balance, that's, you know, I'm feeling it right now. Some things that help me, because I think we all experience like our own brand of this. One thing is, if you don't experience it, it doesn't exist. And what I mean by that is, before I had kids, I would get so angry, like, oh, she's leaving again to go take her kid to a to a doctor's appointment. That's not fair. I have to be at work all day, and she just gets to come and go as she pleases. That was, I feel terribly guilty about that now, but that's, you know, that was my attitude. And when I think about men in the workplace too, who, like, my husband doesn't take my kids to the doctor's appointments. Why? You know, why is that? So some of it's on us, like you said, Erin, to ask for help. One plug for mental health. I have an incredible therapist who has helped me. Most of what we talk about is this. Yes. So, like, you can't do this on your own. Most women, like we said, we're programmed. We've always been this way. And it's hard for us alone to bring ourselves out of it, no matter how desperate we're feeling or how overwhelmed we're feeling. So that's a great place to start. That's a great tool to have. Invest the time in finding a therapist. But also, when it comes to work-life balance, we cannot have it all. Nobody can have it all. That is a lie. That is, I don't know who started that. There's no women, even though they look like it on Instagram, there's no women that have it all. You can't have it all. You can have what you want. You can prioritize the things in your life that you want and let go of the rest. Someone once told me, some balls are made of glass and some balls are made of plastic. You can drop the plastic ones. When you drop the glass ones, it's a big old mess. So if you can kind of take a mental inventory of all the things you do and what you say yes to, and which ones are plastic and which ones are glass. And it is every day. I fight this every day, every single day. So it's not easy, but it is up to us. We can't expect someone else to come in and swoop in, because again, if you don't experience it, it doesn't exist for you. If the guy over there doesn't have kids, he has no idea what we go through, right? And that's just life. That's the way our brains work. So that, find a therapist and start doing a mental inventory about what's really important to you.
Sarah,
in your
you
life.
touched on a really great topic. Therapy is really great self-care. I mean, a lot of people talk about self-care and you can't pour from an empty, from an empty cup. And it's true. And I had a phenomenal boss when I started going to therapy, when I was getting divorced. I mean, I'll say it. And so I would go to her and say, hey, every other Wednesday, could I take my break at the end of my shift, because that's the appointment that the regular appointment that my therapist has available. She knew that I needed that. She knew that I was going through a lot and I really needed to take that time, and that it was important to me, and to me as, an employee, but she also considered me a friend, and she knew that that was helpful for me and that would make me a better employee. So, it was a big circle. And so she really helped me in that. She allowed me to do that. She made sure I was able to take my break at the end of the shift every other Wednesday so that I could go to my therapy. And I did it consistently and was such a huge help. So that's self-care, and there is a big stigma about therapy and mental health, especially in emergency services. And I don't know where that is I don't remember where that is in here, but I know we're getting to it. And it's huge. And it's something that we really need to try to change that stigma that's out there. And I know people who have really tried to do that. And, having great leadership can help with that, but trying to find that person in your organization that can kind of help support that, go to them and see if you can get somebody, to help with that process, because that is huge on so many levels.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm seeing some people chime in. They are supervisors and mothers. They get it. I mean, that's a very fortunate, connection to have. I mean, and it's hard for us to set realistic boundaries with your supervisor. You have to set those boundaries with your boss and your family. There are two things that are kind of interesting that kind of go outside of the box there. And it's really like educating yourself about your family medical leave and what you have within your state. Because if you're getting that pushback, but, listen, if you need to take care of yourself or you need to take care of a loved one, there are certain laws that you need to understand and you use. Also, this is kind of interesting, and I love this little one. Advocate or take advantage of paternity leave. So if your partner has that, that takes the expectation that only you need to take that time off for the birth of a child or for caring for someone. That is a different way to think about it, but hopefully will help balance that load, which can be really heavy, and then leads to our next point, which is just about mental health and burnout, because it's all connected. So I talk a little bit about like secondary trauma. I am not a telecommunicator, but oh my goodness, I have so much respect for the things that you hear and how you process it. So that secondary trauma is, you're basically witnessing on the line a crisis that could either just be incredibly traumatic to hear, or it could trigger something from your past. And we know that women have significantly higher rates of depression and PTSD in general. So you've got those factors, you're fighting against that. You're fighting against, again, feeling like we, in the last slide, we talk about that martyr complex, oh, I can handle it. I've got it under control. I am weak if I want to ask for help or for counseling. And that's, quite the opposite. And then of course, just the whole concept of this job with this high and low stress calls, the overtime, the limited breaks. Someone had mentioned people just think we're just sitting here. Well, you're not just sitting there. You're literally hearing what could be the worst moment of someone's life. And then you have to help them. And you have to make sure that the people that you send are safe. And then, of course, there's this misconception that 911 emergency response is not complicated or demanding as the other emergency service occupations. And we know that's not true. So, ladies, please feel free to chime in.
So, yeah, I started to touch on this. Absolutely. The mental health, the burnout, the stigma, the martyr complex. I had all of it. I mean, I've had all of it. I've been through all of those things. I have had a phenomenal leader. She one day brought in one of the CISM people from the fire department and said, nobody went to the debrief from here, but we're going to sit here and roll call. And you're going to talk about this because I am not going, there's no way that you heard the things that you heard and said the things that you said without it affecting you. Yeah, she did her best to force us to accept the help because she knew we needed it. I had a very traumatic experience. She came to my home. She asked first, but she came to my home with somebody that I'd worked with on our CIT program, just to make sure that I was okay after that call. I mean, it's those types of things. So as leaders, you need to remember to do those things for your staff. I remember being, because it can start from the top down. I remember being a supervisor in Florida on vacation with my family and seeing my grandmother. And during dinner, I got a call that we had an officer involved shooting. Now, I was notified by one of my friends and coworkers. I then checked on everybody who was working, whether I was their supervisor or not, didn't matter. They needed to be checked on. So having, they knew that they could rely on me and depend on me. But again, though, my grandmother goes, can't they leave her alone? She's on vacation. My mom goes, it's her job. So my grandmother didn't fully understand because her generation, it was different. But my mom said, but Ma, it's her job. And yet at the same time, they both had a point. I should have been able to enjoy my vacation. However, I would be upset if I didn't know about that going on at home and I couldn't check and make sure that everybody that I worked with was okay. So even in leadership, it's hard to balance that, so even leaders struggle, but we've really got to work hard to change that and allow people, it's okay, and I hear this all the time, it's okay to not be okay. You just can't stay there. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm going to go to this debrief. It's okay to say after that call, I need to get up and walk out of the room for 15 minutes and go cry in the bathroom and maybe do a lap around the building to kind of get all of that out. Those types of things, it's okay to do. It's just a matter of, figuring out how to bring yourself to take that step. But it's so important, so important. Some agencies have quiet rooms now, and it's difficult even to set up. But if you have the ability to set something like that up or spearhead that, most agencies, there's an office or a room or something, a closet even, that's really not being used for anything efficient. Ask permission. Hey, can we clean this out, reorganize this, and use this room for that? That can be a huge help. So those are just kind of some of the things that, have helped me over the years and some of my experiences.
sort of moved a little bit because you talked about the critical incident stress debriefing, which is super important. And I think that, as we talk about burnout and mental health in general, we notice that not every agency has that after a critical or traumatic call. We had done a webinar last year about the aftermath of critical calls. And this was, it was really interesting to see how many agencies either had them, didn't have them, and how many weren't mandatory. And even though that sounds like a harsh sort of, mandate, if anything, that's like the mandate you do want, right? You want to say, let's process this. If there is an officer down, if there's just some sort of tragedy, how do you get through that? And they do that for, other folks within the public safety realm. But a lot of times the telecommunicators are forgotten, and they're the ones who have to field it. So I put up this poll here just to hear a little bit, if you guys can. There's that little poll tab. Go ahead and put your vote in, and we're just interested in seeing, do you guys have this? Is this a mandatory debriefing? And feel free to put in the chat, have you found it helpful? Erin, I know you have talked a little bit about that, and I think it's really valuable. At the very least, if people aren't comfortable seeking help, having that debrief after something so tragic or critical, can help you get to the next step. I know someone here had said that they had PTSD from an incident, and a lot of people are saying here, if they have it, but it's not mandatory. And if it were mandatory, would that change, the outcome of people's, trauma?
And to me, what's more alarming are not the yeses, but the no, they don't have it, or I'm not sure. I have gone to agencies and had, because when I go to teach or work on a project, I, of course, as part of introducing myself, talk about my experience as a dispatcher. So the dispatchers there at all the agencies know that I'm experienced in the field. And I, on more than one occasion, have had them come up to me, in confidence when it was just me and that person, and say, I'm struggling, or I'm having PTSD. We don't have any kind of programs. I don't know what to do from here. I don't know where to go. So, learning those types of things. And it amazes me, one, that I'm a total stranger, but because of my experience, they feel comfortable enough to come to me, a stranger, instead of somebody that they know. And then from there, what can I do to help, without overstepping any boundaries either, without going to leadership and going, oh yeah, you know what, you really need to work on this. So, I recommend books to people that I've read, and, therapy and EAP if you can find it, and just other resources that are out there. There are other resources out there through other organizations that can help with those types of situations, and it's just a matter of reach out, ask somebody to help, because I have never turned anybody down who reached out to me for help. Now, granted, I can't do it for them, but I've never just said, yeah, I don't know, good luck, buddy, or that sucks. No, I respond with, these are some resources, here's some books, here's some sites, here's some phone numbers. I don't recommend anything specific, but these are resources I know about that can help. Because the fact that so many, 36% say they don't have debriefs. I know our agency had them, but dispatch was often forgotten. Dispatch a lot of times is left out of those because the people on scene don't think about it. We would find out, 2 days later, oh yeah, why weren't you at the debrief? Run into somebody in the fire department at the grocery store. Oh, we didn't know about it, and so I know our fire department was in the process of changing that when I left, but that is huge, knowing about those things. Get to know your counterparts. I know a lot of dispatchers have a lot of conversations with police and firefighters. Talk to them about who heads those up. Ask them who handles those debriefs. instead of talking about, coffee orders, talk about this. Not that coffee orders aren't important, because I know that's the lifeblood. Yeah. Yes. Coffee orders are definitely important. But while you're on the subject, ask about the debriefs. Who handles those? How do we get involved in it? Because sometimes the very person you're talking to just does, it's not that they don't care. It's that they don't think about it or realize it from that perspective. And if you find the right person, you can get involved with those things. Even if they don't want anybody in dispatch actually helping lead those, because some leaders are very protective of their dispatchers, and I get that. But even if that's the case, if they can at least start letting you all participate, that's a huge benefit to everybody. So there's so many resources out there, though, if they don't have debriefs. And again, LinkedIn, if you find somebody to mentor you that is willing to help mentor you, that's huge too. You need to find some people you trust that you can talk to. I know we talk about exercise, nutrition, visiting friends, but again, how do you do that when you're working 60, 80 hours a week? Food prep. And I don't know. I mean, I had EAP tell me once, well, what about just like going up and down the stairs, doing a couple of up and down the stairs after a major intense call, just to get that adrenaline out of your system. So that way you can recover mentally, because that affects your mental health too. Those types of things. And it's just a matter of getting creative. We used to do squats every hour on one of my shifts. Every hour.
Love that.
Hour, let's do it. Let's do our squats. And
that's cool.
We do it as a shift. And it was just, 10, 20 squats, depending on how we were feeling that day. And it was just a little something to move.
Yeah. A lot of what you're talking about is community mental health. From what I've observed, mental health is a community-wide issue, and it takes the whole community to help. I have a little hope for you. 8 years ago, nobody was talking about this in 911. Look how far we've come. We have a ton of work left to do, but we have to do it together. For example, I see in the chat people talking to each other, experiencing similar things, and hey, you can call me whenever. We can talk. I know I don't know you, but here, like, you make a connection. Why? Because we're having these conversations, and you'll find each other. You'll find the resources if you have the conversation. It's up to everybody individually. Like, I look at it like your responsibility to vote. Like, you think that your vote doesn't matter, but it does. You think that you can't make a difference, but look what just happened in the chat. And this is like one conference call, and this is what happens in our 911 Wonder Woman group too, is people find each other. So it starts with taking that step, putting yourself out there. And there's hope. There's people are working on this, and you can get involved. There's Nina groups, there's APCO groups.
Yes.
If you have ideas.
And I'm seeing it in the chat too. Somebody said, hey, people are making suggestions for things that they have been doing, or hey, maybe reach out to another agency nearby to be part of theirs. These suggestions, take them seriously. These are great ideas that people are sharing. Again, back to the networking. Getting involved in groups, again, the memes are great. Laughter is wonderful medicine, but you also want to be part of something that is more than that, because you want to be able to, actually learn from each other, support each other, because you really feel like you have a support system when you have this.
Yeah, I loved seeing that people are talking about how they became peer support. I think advocating for the debriefing, I definitely saw people saying, we find out after the fact, or we have to ask. And there are those outliers like, okay, we're always included because of Border Patrol, et cetera. But, just like I said, using your voice to advocate for that, talking to your peer support if you have that, or starting a peer support program or PTSD program, that is, it's scary to try to start something new within an organization. But once you talk about it, as you see, you're going to find a lot of people who are feeling the same exact way. So it just takes one voice to say it out loud, and then the people will follow. And I think it's really empowering. We talked a lot about that, and just here, you guys touched on everything on this little slide. So I'm going to just talk very quickly just about because we are over. So I am so grateful that most of you have stuck around. It's okay. I knew this would happen, but this is a really important, powerful conversation. So just to sort of move forward to just the impact of training, I'm talking about training on many different levels. Finding a 911 PSAP centered training on stress identification and management. This gives you just ways to remain calm, focus during your high pressure calls, and then it helps you do your job better. But it also, when you have this high level, sort of like crazy intense phone call or incident, it could lead to errors in judgment and decision making. So these sort of trainings help you manage the stress, reduce the likelihood that could compromise what you're doing, because that's just another layer on top of what you're experiencing. So just learning those coping strategies, that helps reduce your burnout as well. And then, of course, training for everyone. It's not just the new folks who come in, it's your veterans. You're just making sure that they're prepared. So if it's even beyond the stress management, it's even training for your own job. It's making sure that your folks feel that they are prepared for anything, and that alone takes the stress off of it. Anybody thrown into a situation where they're not sure what to do, that just increases that level of stress. Especially when it's life or death, and sometimes it is.
Absolutely. And we see a lot, veterans, unfortunately, can be salty is the word I like to use. And I've been through those periods myself, and it does affect the rest of the room, and it can have a negative impact on the newbies. The new people think, oh gosh, they've been here for 20 years and they're really great at their job and they're not bothered by it. So it's not normal for me to be bothered by it either. And really,
that's a good point.
They're just pretending not to be bothered by it. So if we have newbies on here, trust me, they really are bothered by it. They just pretend it, or don't want to admit
That's
it.
why we need to talk about it.
Exactly.
That's why we need to
so
share.
These conversations hopefully will change the way the 911 industry views this.
Absolutely. We know that's probably could be lunchtime for a couple of you. So we are going to be sending a follow-up email with all of the resources that we're talking about. We're going to keep going. So in case you have to pop off, you will get the recording of this. But we are sort of winding down here. This last slide is just sort of encouraging you to just stay the course. Embrace asking for help. You guys, you both mentioned the EAP programs, or the employee assistant programs. They give you a lot of resources. They can connect you with folks that can help you with your mental health needs, etc. Social change, using your voice, as we had said, talking to administration, telling them about your concerns, and come up with solutions. And I'm looking at the chat, and I'm seeing so many of everyone being proactive and saying, no, we need this, or I stepped up and became, a peer supporter. I asked, like, we really need this when we have our critical calls. And then someone had mentioned this about the stigma of asking for health and mental health support. And every day, just challenge it and change that stigma, because it's an important part of your health and well-being, and it affects everything in your life, your work, your home, all of your relationships. Okay, so now I just want to quickly move on to support and advocacy. Let's see. Here we are. This is your opportunity, Sarah. I want you to just talk a little bit about like what you're doing now and in the future. It's such a wonderful group. So please. Oh.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
So I saw some people in the chat had signed up for our 5K.
I know, I saw that too. That's so great.
Just if you have, we These shirts have arrived in our possession and they will be shipped out this week. So you will be getting them hopefully in by next week. But what we do is a virtual 5K. So this kind of was born in the midst of COVID. And what we do at 911 Wonder Woman is just try to find ways to help you be healthy in every way, not just physically, mentally, career, personal development. So our 5K gives you the kind of like that push, like Erin, you were telling us about how your husband gave you a little push to apply, a little push to get out there. It's the 4 days leading up to National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. So it's a great way to start that week like in a good place, like proud of yourself. It's over 4 days because, dispatcher schedules. And also you can break it up. You can walk a little bit each day or run a little bit each day, or you can do it as a group, or you can walk around your dispatch center, or you could use your desk treadmill, or you can ride your bike, or there's so many different things you can do to just accomplish this thing, just do something that makes yourself proud. So we have about 700 people from around the world who have registered this year, which is another reason it takes so long to get the shirts out. So give us some time, but you get a shirt, a race bib, a sticker, and it's just something to be proud of. People post during the race, and we try to collect all those pictures and just show everybody, like, we are 911. We are not faceless. We can do hard things. Look what we're doing. And it's just one of my favorite things. And then we do virtual trainings. We do one quarterly. It's a half a day. We have 4 speakers. And the next one is called Know Your Rights. So we're going back to that slide and we're diving in to HR, maternity leave, paternity leave, all of the things that you should know about in your center. How, what happens when you want to launch an HR complaint, but the HR person is also your supervisor, which happens in centers sometimes. So that kind of stuff. And we're going around the country doing in-person versions of those as well when we can. So did I miss anything on the slide there?
No, you did it. Got it.
Okay.
I also sent a note just saying that, again, we will be sending a list of all of the resources that advocacy that we're talking about, and we'll keep this conversation moving forward. This isn't like a one and done. So if you're looking for those resources, we'll connect you with everything that you need. One of the another groups is Nina's 911 Women in 911 Alliance. And so there's a link there to join, to become a part of. We know that if you already are a Nina member, you can join the community. But I feel like there are, Sarah, maybe you can talk to that very quickly. Is there a cost to join Nina? And if there's something to offset that?
Yes. So if you're working in a center, the cost of a Nina membership is $60 some. So there's that for annually. And you get all their resources that they have, and you get discounts on EMP and conferences. But WIN, Women in 911, you do have to be a Nina member to be a part of WIN, but they do free webinars, and you do not have to be a Nina member to join those webinars, which is fantastic.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Very quickly, I already said what our next steps are. You guys will all get that webinar replay, so please share it widely. We'll put it on our YouTube page as well in the next few days. And as always, check out 911 Wonder Women. Check out PowerPhone. We have a bunch of free resources, blogs, and webinars as well. And we're here to share the information. And I would say we would go to questions, but we've had so many, and we've taken a little bit extra of your time, which we are so grateful for. So I would just say thank you so much. Again, keep an eye out for our email, and huge thank you to Sarah and Erin for just having this really awesome conversation, honest, and thank you all for chiming in. I mean, it's really valuable input, and I'm sending you all good vibes. Stay the course.
We've got you. We've got each other.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor to participate in this. It's so important, and I hope we continue this conversation.
Yes.
All
Yep.
right. Well, thank you,
We will.
and enjoy, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.